Hello and welcome everybody to Retake SPL. I'm your host LHS and I'm joined by Freight Train and Gore Miser. And today we have a special show for you. Not only do we have one guest, we have two guests, but not three guests because that'd be too damn many. So our first guest, who's going to be here for the duration of the show, you know him, you love him. Say hello to F. Dot. How you doing, F. Dot?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm here. I'm moderately excited and I'm ready to go.
All right. Moderately excited. That's what we shoot for here at Retake SPL. And secondly, our second guest. You know him, you love him from his Gauntlet just monster run from Oxygen Supremacy. We have Venenu. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Yourself?
Doing very well. Moderately excited. So not too moderately. Like I'm keeping that in check so I don't get too excited.
Nice.
Yeah. So, first off, congratulations. That was a hell of a performance at LAN. How did that feel to go in as the challenger team? Nobody really had, as far as fans go, nobody had the faith in you that you were going to get out of the first round. I mean, maybe if, like, as a meme because you were against Flashpoint. But how is it to show up and put that all back in everybody's face?
Oh, it felt amazing. I mean, we went in prepared, and we had a lot of scrims with E United and pretty much almost everybody from the SPL. So we had high hopes going into it anyway. We thought we were going to do really, really well against almost every team.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but F. Dot asked you a question before all the events started about you guys being kind of viewed as a scrim team. Hadn't really shown up to the LAN environment yet in Clutch, and you guys said you weren't worried about it. How there was a different speed. That was my question. So scratch that one off of this show. We don't have to talk to you about that. Yeah, that's a little self-plug there.
Got him.
So let's roll it back. Let's go all the way back to last year. You played with ALG. And that squad kind of didn't end too well. Kind of imploded there at the end. What was it like playing with ALG at that time?
It was pretty good. We had a little mess ups, in between the team, but like Weekend, I was glad to be a part of that team, honestly, because Weekend and Incon were both like professional, so I learned a lot of professionality from them, and like going into it. Their team specifically, I just wanted to like play the best I could, and then like translate it into being like professional in like other team and like certain environments and stuff like that, and like learning different traits from other teams.
All right. What would you say the biggest thing you learned from your time with ALG was?
Probably just being a leader, because Weekend was like a really really good leader, so I got to translate that into my current team, and it really like combining everything together and like learning all the problems and stuff like that. I pretty much learned all from like ALG.
So overall, you had like a good experience with ALG, even though like at least from like the community side of things, it kind of looked like not exactly toxic, but not like a great team environment.
It wasn't the best team environment, but we pretty much all got along. Besides like a few things, like some days it would be really really bad, and then sometimes it would be really good. But overall, like when we went over, we would do like VODs before every scrim, and then we would do like good on those days that we'd watch the VOD before the scrim. That's when the team environment was like picture perfect, but it really didn't hold all the way through the games.
Okay. So going from that high level SPL play back down in the challenger, like what was the biggest adjustment for you going from the SPL back down to the challenger scene?
The picks are much different in the Challenger Cup than the SPL. I'm pretty sure that's why it just took us as a team, like Oxygen Supremacy, a while to adapt to the picks. We really weren't picking for them, because in CC they kind of just pick all pressure, and we were kind of just doing our own thing. And like, of course, like when we come from the SPL, you kind of have like an ego over all the other teams. So we kind of had to just drop that ego and just play the game for them and like go with the scrims and just learn as much as we could off of the games that we were losing against the CC teams.
Okay. And I know, one of the questions I asked you, before this even started was the change of pace between the challenger scene and the SPL teams. What's the biggest difference between the two sides of teams? I mean, mechanical skill and all that aside, what's like the biggest like pace or, attitude change?
Well, from what I noticed is in the CC, it is all of it's kind of like rushed. Like I'm pretty sure all of the teams just pick like early game stuff, and then if they lose the early game, they kind of don't know how to come back. Which versus like what we know how to come back. So we kind of just like played the whole early game and just waited, and then we ended up just winning later on.
Okay. Gore, you have been watching Oxygen Supremacy pretty closely just because you have to cast the games, but I'm sure you have some questions of your own for Venenu here.
Well, I know the one thing that actually was kind of touched on, one thing for going from the SPL back into the Challenger circuit, and something kind of FDOT touched on a few weeks ago, was that it sounded exactly like what you expect to see. You had the pros who were kind of ahead, you had Weekend and Encon kind of showing you guys the ropes, and you were able to bring that experience kind of in and kind of pick up one of the players that I think had a lot of great potential going into that, and that's going to be Day to Remember. And I'm just kind of wondering, when we watched you in the Gauntlet, and honestly, even throughout CC, it kind of seems like he has hit or miss games. Have you had to kind of play around either maybe some inconsistencies, or are you guys kind of prepared to have your carry be either you, him, or your jungler?
It's usually all three of us can have the carry. But when we initially got Day, in the scrims, like he would usually just get like pummeled because we used to scrim like United like straight, and Panda would just like farm him for his mistakes that he was making. So once he adapted to that and then adapted like a certain play style, we got to play around that much easier, and he became more of a consistent player as time went on. So we got to play around that like his play style like perfectly every single time. But in the Gauntlet, it didn't end up being consistent. I'm pretty sure that's because of fatigue though. We all got fatigued. Yeah, it was definitely not the best.
Incredibly long day for you guys, especially like
Yeah.
that many games of Smite in a row. Like the fact that you were still going at the end was impressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's just no way. I mean, what was it, like 7 hours? I mean, it's the fact that you guys even went that long for playing at that high of a level is pretty damn good. I mean, that's impressive enough. I mean, I think if there was, obviously it's called a gauntlet for a reason, but if there was a break and you guys were able to come back maybe the next day a little recharged, you guys probably could win. You guys had a damn good shot at going all the way through NA for sure. But I mean, they call it the gauntlet for a reason.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Actually, let me open up that conversation real quick. How did y'all feel about that? The fact that like the longevity was part of the contest.
For us personally, it was kind of annoying considering we think we could have like almost won the whole thing. But like the fatigue just started
I
to kick
agree.
in with like little bits of breaks. Just as a player perspective, anyway, that's how it was.
So, assuming you understand the like fact that longevity is supposed to be a part of the contest, especially for the lower seeded teams, what do you think the ideal scenario would be? Meaning that, look, if you're number 9, which CC1 is, right? If you're number 9, the idea is to make, you climb through everybody, and that is supposed to be harder than if you're number 3. But where's the line? Where's the limit? When does it go from that's an interesting part of the competition to this is bullshit?
Think
Can
when
I
you
say that on this show? My
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
You can say whatever you want, man. Yeah. I mean, this show started as a very family PG, and then quickly by week 3 was like F this, and it went downhill.
Go ahead, Vin.
I think once you hit like the 5 or 6 hour mark from coming from the bottom seed, it starts to really like the fatigue really kicks in. Unless you're just like winning every single game, and like you have no mistakes or anything like that. You don't really like recognize it when there's like no mistakes happening and you're not losing. But like even if you get like a first loss or make mistakes, like you're not really focusing on the game anymore. You're kind of
Right.
just like getting tired. That's pretty much all I noticed. Like, because I know until we lost to Gabe, we were all like focused and everything. And then I remember I think we threw at the Gold Fury because Ma froze and no one was near him and no one was really like paying attention, and then he died, and then we kind of just like nobody knew what was happening after that. Our brains were just like turned off.
So I know one of the things that kind of got kicked around on Twitter after the fact was the idea of splitting up the gauntlet into halves. So the first day you have the first half of NA, and then you have the first half of EU, and then the second day you have the second half of NA and EU, and then the third day is pretty much largely kept the same. Do you think that would be a better setup, or does that kind of take away what the gauntlet is supposed to be as like this endurance challenge?
I think it's definitely a good idea, but at the same time, it does take away out of the endurance challenge. I think what you should do for like a ultimate like good gauntlet, I think 4 teams, 4 NA and 4 EU on day 1, and then the 2 NA and then 2 EU the rest, and then finals on the last day. I feel like that would be the best because at least you're getting that pure endurance on the first day. So the bottom seeded team, if they made it all the way through, they did do the endurance run, and then like the next day is kind of like you get to relax and like get like re-energized and play their games and keep going on.
Interesting. I like that, but at the same time, I know it's like right now we have a 3-day event, and if you go to that, that's a 2-day event, and that's a much longer event as well for that.
And
first
then longer
day.
equals more cost for high res with
Yeah.
hotels, and I mean, eventually, obviously, it all comes down to like how much. If they can extend events, I'd guarantee they'd love to. But I mean, damn, like I said, I don't think anyone can win. If you guys were to have won the gauntlet during that day, it would have been like 9 straight hours of smite, or it was something ridiculous like 9 or 10 hours of straight smite. That's I don't think anybody can really do that.
I actually got really interested when Venenu mentioned like a time frame instead of number of games. I think that it'd be really interesting to say like, and I mean now this is talking about something completely different and like maybe even change the format. Now I'm thinking about sort of like a time trial for all the teams. I'm out there right now, but I thought it was really interesting saying like, all right, y'all got 5 hours. Who can you beat? Ready, set, go. And the idea then that like quicker games is better for you theoretically, you know what I'm saying? That becomes really interesting. So maybe not for the gauntlet or anything, but I don't know. I'm always thinking about like new formats and things, how to keep things fresh. So
yeah, that'd be really interesting. But we're getting away from.
I'm completely off.
Yeah,
base.
we're getting
It's
away.
all-
So I guess one of the big questions, if we're gonna start talking about substance here, is what was the thought process of let's go the last game against Gabe, or just like the last set in general, the decision to go for the Vulcan and then to go to the Zong Kui and to not kind of bring back the Chiron mid that had worked so well earlier in the day.
So we practiced Terrazong for like actually a week straight, and we never lost with it. So we were going into it pretty well, but like we were really fatigued, so we couldn't actually like do anything like our combos correctly or anything like that. So there was a lot of miscommunication as the game was going on. So when you have miscommunication with like Zhang and Terra, like you're just supposed to like run in with Zhang, and when you run in alone as a Zhang though, and you'll just get exploded and then the character becomes useless. But if everyone was on the same page, we'd all like just like death ball together. That's what we were doing in scrims, and it was working like perfectly. But it ended up not working that well in on the game day that it mattered.
Can I ask a question about? I don't really like Vulcan. I'm gonna be directly honest here. I don't think he's like he just. unless you're hitting every combo, what's really the Vulcan thing other than the ultimate? Because like it's so I see most Vulcan players hit that ultimate maybe like 20% of the time, and even when they do hit it, it's not as impactful as you think. Like I see him picked up a lot. Like is there something that's going like? Are you trying to combo more with him, or really what's it? Because like I just don't see the wins coming from him as a character.
Vulcan brings a lot of burst throughout the game and a lot of poke, and the poke ends up being really, really good in like team fights, like around Fire Giant per se. He can just like 3-1 someone and almost kill them if they're squishy. He also has like very, very good self peel, especially getting like the movement speed buff if you hit an ability if someone's like diving you. You can block off a complete path if they're trying to run away from you with the Vulcan ult, because that Vulcan ult will literally just like kill your whole team if you're just in it trying to run away. So it forces them to like fight you, and like that I'm pretty sure that 20%, if that hits that Vulcan ult, it will like completely change the team fight.
Yeah, I guess I just haven't like seen the things you're saying make complete sense. Like in my head, I'm like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Great peel, backfire, got a turret to go ahead and cut off paths and so on in the poke. But man, I know me and Gormizer, especially, like I felt bad. Who was it? Like Confrey? I think he just went like 0 into Oblivion with the Vulcan. Like there's been so many times I've seen Vulcan play, even in Friday Night Smite and in other games. He just doesn't seem to get the W's for me, but I see him picked over and over again, and I'm just so curious about it.
Okay.
But no, you answer the question best you can. But I get the point of it. Like I don't know. Vulcan is just not like my fan favorite for like a mid, but I
at
see
the end
where
of the
it's
day,
at.
Vulcan brings a lot of consistent, confirmable damage by way of the Inferno Cannon and the fucking meatball. That's also a nice peel for a position that doesn't have traditional peel most of the time. The meatball being the stun knockup type deal is like a lot stronger than a lot of mid laners self peel or assist peel is going to be anyway. And then the ultimate, whether it hits or not, is often valuable. People always make the joke of zoning ultimates, but like if there's a Vulcan, you're not going to go stand next to where he's shooting. Period. End of story. So a lot of what Vulcan does is a threat, and also the peel thing is actually really, really big at a high level.
All right.
I feel it. I got you. All right.
Yeah.
We can go on LHS. My bad. I just had to ask about Vulcan.
No, I get it.
Vulcan
It's
was
fine.
just in my head. Just had to ask.
All right. So yeah, I think we were all a little bit disappointed. We didn't see the Hunter mid, but overall, what was kind of the overall strategy you guys kind of brought into the Gauntlet? Because I mean, it felt like every game you guys were just pulling something else out. It's like, okay, we've seen what they got. Next game, they're doing something completely different. All right, well, that's it. Surely. Nope, they got something else to pull out of their head. Like, did you guys come in just like scrimming for 23 hours a day and like practicing every possible combination of things to try to figure out what you could do?
Well, in our scrims, we like to like play everything. I'm pretty sure we've actually played every single god, and we start with like the worst possible gods in said roles and see if we can make those gods work. But if they end up not working, we go in toward the more favored picks. We also like to just ban something we don't ever want to face, and we just get that away because it's like something we can't deal with. We just don't want to deal with it. We don't really care about the meta bans, so we kind of just pick anything that's like available at that time. We'll like pick that god, and then we'll just build a team comp off of it in the picking phase. We don't really go into games with this, like a certain comp in mind or anything like that.
I think that actually really kind of helps apply with, I mean, when we were talking to Weekend a couple weeks ago, one of the things he had mentioned was the fact that you guys were the team to scrim, right? And that I think kind of helps play into what you were saying, whereas like you guys were able to practice, everyone really wanted to be able to play with you, and even seeing you like through the challenger circuit, even when you were playing at the time, like you said, kind of playing down to where they were more than playing what you would in the SPL, you still kind of, I think, got a little bit more practice going forward with things that you might not have been as comfortable with.
Yeah, 100%. The CC actually, I think, helped us all. We like all like we rewatched our games, and we watched our CC games, then we rewatched our scrims, noticed the difference on what was happening between the two, seeing if people were getting tense and stressed, and then going into like the Gauntlet, we were just wanting everybody to be relaxed. It really helped though having to be able to scrim at the LAN. We're getting a lot of teams wanted to scrim us, and it was really helpful that we got to get all the LAN jitters and everything off before the actual game started.
Okay, sorry. I'm rolling for skins to give away to the chat. So Freight.
Blame LHS if you don't get a skin. Blame him.
Yeah.
You know,
Freight.
this is the guy. Speaking of roles, by
Oh,
the way,
God.
everybody.
Oh God, here we go.
Speaking of roles, this is the guy that re-rolled the only a tank and assault that we had today when we played. That's the type of host that you have here at LHS, guys. Just let him have it. Just let him have it. He re-rolled the only tank and assault. That's the type of guy that you're talking
He's salty, Freight Train.
But it's
love that.
fine because I was poo. So you know, Apwa. It was fine. I was
He
Goomba
re-rolls
Karna,
Goomba and Alpwash.
and then I turned
Yes.
into Apwash. So I feel like it worked. It worked out. It was assault, and I was Apwash. Like that's not like a down thing. That's
We didn't
right.
have a
Right, Vin,
Goomba,
you got
and
my
I
back,
died.
right?
I would like the Kumba.
Oh come on.
Oh, thank you. See, he wants
no
he wants
no
the
support. Literally no support. All right, so
You're the worst.
So one of the questions that we had from Twitter to ask you was, how did it feel to kind of go up against ALG and absolutely demolish and squash them?
I mean, obviously it felt good, right? It's my old team, so felt good. But I made friends with all the boys again, Stealth and Weekend and everybody. So I mean, I didn't really have any beef with them outside of like everything that happened. We talked it over and stuff like that. But it felt good though. It felt good just like rampaging through everybody in our path. Definitely.
Oh yeah, I bet. Like, I mean, you tore through Flashpoint. And it's like, all right, well that was Flashpoint. That's all right. And then you tear through Noble, and it's like, okay, all right. And then you tore through ALG, and I don't personally.
We
I
didn't
don't
know where ALG was going to be like. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Like we didn't know with the new support. We really didn't know. If you got to ALG, I think people thought you could beat ALG.
Yeah, just because the new support and everything like that, and then with Weekend kind of switching. I guess the one question is like, for ALG, who did you guys feel like the weak point was? Like, what was the game plan going into ALG? Was it to like attack the new support?
We scrimmed ALG with their current roster that they had with Guy in Your Bed or Vivian X3.
Mhm.
So
God, worse.
he he actually got picked less than PBM did. This is no offense to him, but in our scrims, he wasn't actually getting picked as much. So we actually it was harder to play against. But it's on game day in the Gauntlet, we had a game plan of just instead of like looking for a certain thing to do, we just wanted to play our game. Because when we go into the games with certain things we want to do, we tend to lose because if those things go bad, we actually don't have a backup plan. So we kind of just went into the game like just play our comp and just play it how we usually just do whatever. And it ended up working out against them. We didn't really have a set plan against anybody, honestly. We kind of just played our comp.
Where did the AO come from? Because I called that. I called that AO coming back, but it didn't go exactly as predicted. Just curious, was Skelly just like, give me Ao Kwang? Or like,
yeah, actually. We
Sweet.
played it
I
like
gotta-
once
shout
in
out to Skelly.
scrims. We played it
Shout out to
once in
Skelly.
scrims. Yeah. It did well. So we're like, all right, I believe. We all trusted each other on picks. So, yeah.
So, where do you go from here? You guys obviously aren't quite in the SPL yet, so you gotta earn that even with this monster showing. I mean, are you? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, Venenu, are you going to leave Sanguine? Are
Yes.
you leaving
I've
Sanguine?
already done it.
Yeah, you've already
I've
done
already
it.
done it. Yep. Sanguine's out.
I saw
can't
you
believe
tried
you
to
did.
do. I saw you
I-
tried
I-
to do, and like LHS as a friend, that was awful. Just That's like when Aggro sits here and describes memes in real life. Like you'll sit there talking about something. So I went to the drive-thru and I asked for ketchup, and they told me they only had mustard. And I was like, Mr. Krabs with the spinning stuff around him, the picture where it has lines and he's kind of like falling, and his eyes are really big and he's spinning. Yeah, like that. That's what you just did.
Yeah, a little bit, but I tried, and that's the important part, kids. Always try.
I don't know about that.
Okay, so
sometimes it's not worth the try.
But for real here, where do you guys go from here? Obviously, you guys have a really strong squad. I mean, there's no plan for you guys to do anything but stay together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
win
were staying
relegations
together
and get your
also.
asses in the SPL. I mean, that's hurry
That
up,
is the plan.
damn it.
Hell
Hurry
yeah.
up.
So
You go win relegations?
Of course.
can you guarantee that? Because like, how many weeks ago you
Oh
were
boy.
you were in relegations, not looking the hottest?
Well, they've
Oh.
been in CC. They've been kicking some ass in there, man. Like there's really not too many squads that have been able to compete with them in that aspect. And Gore can attest to that. He's been, yeah.
Dude, those first 5 weeks were insane because it's like when we looked at the rosters like before CC started up, and your team was just like one of those where like, oh man, like every single game is gonna be like 15 minutes long. It's gonna be a stomp. Like they're gonna be so bad to watch. And we were kind of surprised because like, and you know, looking back on it now with what we know, it's because the meta was really kind of different for these teams than it was for what you guys were mainly used to, save for maybe Day because he had been playing with these guys before. But looking at like the latter half of that, you guys were really able to come together. And of course, we really got to see the strength that you were able to pull together as a team like on Thursday, just because you guys or Friday, just because you guys just steamrolled a lot harder. Like I thought you were going to do well, but I thought the games were going to be like very close, you know, keeping it kind of like it could go either way. Then 30 minutes, your team's able to like take a fight. And you guys were just like stomping on them and doing the thing that I think that I see Day do in the college smite, where it's just kind of like he just kind of farms for 15 minutes. Your team gets ahead. And then when you go into a fight, you've got level advantage, gold advantage, and the other team didn't even realize it was happening.
Yeah. No, Day's actually an insane player, and so is Niruma. Actually,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
one of the best supports I think on LAN. Actually, like insane.
I will agree with that. I think Neil Ma played his scotch and sodas off. He was out of this world. Best, I won't say best, but top tier in
Say best. Say
and
best.
just like raw support plays. Like when you watch a support player, you have to see like where their mind is at, and that's tough. And I had the luxury of like, you know, looking over his shoulder a couple of times and just like where his camera's pointed, what he's thinking about at that moment in time is the same sort of thing that like I think about when I think about names like Jeff Inlet and Trix Tank. Like just the mindset comes before the mechanics for me personally in the support role, and I think he absolutely nailed it. And Data, remember, I mean, that's a much different role. You hit your shit, and that's what he did, and it was impressive.
Yeah, they both.
Yeah, they set up a nice 1v1s. He took the fights. He has some nice pop. How was the pop offs? Like that's what I want to know, because obviously we weren't there. Like I want to know what Day's pop off. Like because he was hyped on camera.
My man, Data Remember, dude. Data Remember was out of his mind. So like, and it started like way before he even played. I rolled up to the studio, you know, 9:30 in the morning. They don't play till like 11. I'm just like, yo, what's up, Data? How you doing? I'm like grabbing all like morning beverages, and I'm just like, so well, what you gonna? How's today gonna go? How you feeling? We're gonna fucking win! Just like right off the dome.
Hell yeah, I mean.
And then like they go, first game comes out and like he gets purple buff and he's like, yeah! I'm like, damn, okay. And then he starts killing people. He was just yelling across the way. Oh my goodness. It was honestly, it was the unexpected kids. It was him and Deathwalker that ran the audio part of the LAN.
All right. So I think that's pretty much all of like the serious questions I got. You normally, you know, we've been asking like the softball, like, what do you think about season 4 kind of crap, but I feel like it's a little too late at this point to be asking that question. Super simple question. We'll end this on the easiest might question that ever did exist. Who's your favorite god?
Kyron?
Chiron?
Hell yeah.
Why Chiron?
I don't know. He feels like really smooth and sniping. I like having that thrill of like hitting every single snipe and doing like 800 damage early game is amazing. And
He's
like,
a horse, of course.
and then like the cleanses are nice with his one. Like I remember that ALG game that Weekend played Fenrir. He ulted a couple times and I just cleansed him right out of his mouth. It felt real good.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially
People
against.
forget about that, honestly, on Chiron. They really do forget about that aspect.
All right, so that's the last question I have. F. Dot, you got anything else to add? No. Gonna say no. All right, so this is the point, Venenu, where you have the stage, you have the floor. We give you our soapbox to stand on. Any shout-outs, anything you want to say it. The floor is yours. Do with it what you will.
Shout outs to my org, Oxygen Supremacy. Shout out to Niruma and Day to being god tier at LAN, and same with Skilly and Kiki. Obviously, everybody showed up. It was completely like team play all the way around. Everybody was doing perfect. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me on the show. I
Thanks
appreciate
for coming. We appreciate having you. Again, this is Venenu from Oxygen Supremacy, the mid laner. Be sure to, if you didn't see those Gauntlet games, do a favor to yourself and go watch them. Go watch the VODs. Those were amazing games to watch. Just from a hype perspective, I knew nothing about you guys going in. And then by the end of the day, I was so invested. I was there from start to finish, just rooting you guys on. And I walked away a huge Oxygen fan. So
it's all due to Shadow Share because of the coaching.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We'll hopefully see you in the SPL very soon.
I hope so too. All right.
All
Good
right.
luck.
Thank you.
No doubts.
See ya.